Okay, so now I think we're live again. And now I think it's not crashing. Select stream, refresh. Now we have excellent, okay, that's good. And the quality is not bad, no. Properties preset, okay, no buffer. We have a studio mode, not exactly necessary. Also, at least a way to have access to the chat, that'll be important. But no need for studio mode. It's really a way to like just make this chat interactive. And funny, we do games interactive, but the chat, which is is a key element, is vital. We don't have here the chat. Why we don't have it? Where's the studio? No studio mode. Start virtual camera maybe. Okay, now we have like concurrent views. How many views we have? Okay, let's make a test. There's still some delay. Okay, let's make a test. Okay, there's still some delay, but this might be addressed. All right. Actually, now really starts pretty late, more late than usually. And for those who have been watching, basically just to give some inputs on what have been building along the way. So we had these inputs from our mentor on Sunday evening, so I was the only one here. And even though he's not a mentor focused on games, he's a mentor of startups. And something that we always talk on startups is about the unique selling proposition, the USP. And there are many ways to describe it, how it's your project is unique and etc. But something that I really like to think about is for those who are also in the startup field, there is this guy called Guy Kawasaki. So I remember seeing his speeches about, for example, how to make good designs, and he has a pitch deck, and it's called something like the only 10 slides that you need for a presentation, something like this. And amazing guy, deep knowledge on pitches, also an early investor on Canva, which is remembered was this very good Australian case, but also he was an evangelist at Apple, and very knowledgeable guy. And in his pitch deck, basically you're talking about the problem, and after the problem but before the solution comes the underlying magic. And I think this is the best way to highlight how good is your USP, like how evident is your unique selling proposition. So this is an amazing opportunity. And when discussing about what is exactly Abiso's unique selling proposition, it's really this onboarding on games. So something that we observed that many people love card games, and not just trading card games, so games in general, but they really feel or overwhelmed by trading card game rules, or they just feel bored because they're like a preset of rules that are very difficult to understand and difficult to ensure that they're rightly played. And this problem we decided to tackle on Abyssus TCG. And how we do this? So basically the same way that you would speak, for example, with Pikachu in the Pokemon universe, or even let's say with your Kuribo in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Basically want to have creatures that are interactive. So it's just not a one-way chain of communication, but it's a two-way system. And I think this is very interesting. That's vital for having something that is interactive, so that makes it interesting for gaming, but also that alleviates this weight and this burden of how to play a new game, specifically talking about trading card games. So this is what we have been building since Sunday evening. So he arrived in our city, it was around 10 p.m. and I had a discussion with him, and I think I started building after this. And of course, on the live of yesterday evening, I already mentioned that we had been progress on the model, and besides only this progress, very likely on the following lives, we're also going to be implementing the model here. So all of you are going to see firsthand how this avatar works, how these creatures behaves, and how can we better improve this. And this we are going to be building along the way. So don't forget to check it out. And this is just one element that usually we sometimes not consider, but in this prototyping phase it's very important. So prototype phase, you're still looking in the design thinking process back then in the interviews phase, and we still see, okay, are we truly aligned with the opportunity area that we committed when we started the solution phase? And that's an interesting question, because when you are so deep dive, when you dive it so deep into a thematic, usually it's a normal trap to actually lose sight on what we have committed in the past. And usually, as when you emerge in an ocean, it's good to come back out and just evaluate where you are and if you're in the right direction. And this type of deep dives we still do in a weekly basis for work, but it's very important that we come back and when we talk internally about are we going the right direction. I mean, we're building games and we're basically building the next generation of games. Are we in the right direction? So what are we building? Is this going to be interesting? Is this going to have some fun? Which types of emotions do we have around this universe? And this is of course very, very important to us. And this is what we have been building over the past months, starting since April, I believe. And yes, this is one of the, so this is what we are currently building. And also when we talk about prototypes, prototype again, first we describe the design thinking as something like you have the first part of the double diamond, which is the problem section, and then you have the second part of the double diamond, which is the solution. But this, even though you have in the beginning this linear process, actually there is a lot of coming back and forth, because sometimes you have to reevaluate the pains and if they're being addressed. So you come back to the first part of the double diamond. And sometimes you just think, you know what, we had this good idea that might also address this new feedback that we got from customers. So then you have to come back to the ideation phase and go look for that post-it that you had that had this good idea that is able to address. So these type of elements, these type of problems, they are very interesting to play with, because that's why it's a very dynamic system. You're doing this back and forth, you are producing prototypes, giving to people, getting feedback, come back and fixing it. And this back and forth is very interesting, because whatever we build, it's building towards the customer. And of course, we get feedbacks that somehow, I'm not gonna say surprise us, but it really gets us off guard. For example, hey, I still don't get the concept of the game. So this is something very similar, very very common that we hear. And still, after so much work towards this, we still get this type of feedback. And even though at some point, for some people, this might demotivate you, a very cool way that we have to avoid this demotivation is to think. Imagine how many people and how many companies, so how many people, how many developers, and even how many companies, they are currently building solutions and they never talk to users. They never talk with their end customer. And after months of work, after a lot of money invested into a type of solution, when they bring to the market, the feedback that they got is that simply, hey, I don't understand what you built, or I'm just not interested to. And this is so frustrating because startups, they have this very bad metric that usually 9 of 10 already fail. And okay, then comes to the question, how to be the one that does not fail? And the reason for that, so one of the main North Stars that you can take on this is build things around customers, build things around real people, potential buyers. And people are usually quite open. You don't have to be afraid, you don't have to be, hesitant on this, because at the first glance, you're just talking to people. It's just somehow a short interview. You just want to get insights from this field. You just want to get, some positioning. Maybe you already have a prototype built. Maybe it's in your wardrobe or your drawer. And then you just, take this and bring it to the world. And there is no problem sharing ideas. Because, and this, of course, I think everybody, at least at some point in life, had this, this hesitance towards it. And maybe you're having right now, which is totally normal, about sharing ideas. You don't have to be worried to share, because people who have the power to execute, they are already executing it. And the ones who don't have the power to execute, you can easily share because they're not going to take this further. So the ones who are executing, they're usually so focused on what they're already building, they don't have the time to execute. Oh my God, I heard such a good idea. I'm going to abandon all of my work. I'm going to pursue this idea. Because this means starting from scratch. And starting from scratch is very painful. Even in a group, but alone it's even more. Because you put a lot of energy and time towards something, towards an objective. And the output, or actually even better, the outcomes that you get, they're usually very slow and very disappointing. Because you have this ideal target that you want to reach out, and usually this is what you get as an outcome from your actions. And this gap in between only leads to frustration. And you can have this in a monthly basis, a weekly basis, sometimes even a daily basis. So this dose of frustration that I thought that I could build X, Y, Z, or that I would have achieved that amount of revenue, or that amount of users. And in reality, what you get is not outcome at all. You can even think about a good example as this live. So we don't have that huge number of people coming up, but the consistency is very important, because this allows us to really, let's create content material. We're explaining about the trading card games, we're explaining about design thinking, and we explain about the whole entrepreneurship in general, things that we are facing it in a daily basis, specifically building a startup outside Germany, as we come from outside Germany, which makes things like at least 3 times more difficult, and is not an easy path, not like diminishing the credits for those who had already built from here, because the startups are hard in any place in the world. But you as a foreigner, you already have like specific challenges, specific problems with visa, specific challenges about market language, life in overall, in general. And of course, we always try to overcome this type of challenges. And now we do this, one of the best ways are community. So community of entrepreneurs, we're building this game, and if we didn't have, for example, this meet with our mentor on a Sunday evening, which was not planned, it was something very ad hoc, probably we will not be there very deep focusing on our USP, which actually when you hear makes total sense. Independent of your business, independent of your activity, independent of your startup, You should always focus on this underlying magic, like what makes you unique, what makes you valuable, what are you seeing that maybe everybody's seeing but not understanding. And this interactiveness in game, it's really key to have like a better experience. And we don't see people like building towards it, or maybe they're building but maybe in a stealth mode. And what we're doing here is that we're really building to the world. And of course, on the following lives, we're gonna be also, just sharing screen. As you can see in our Instagram, we have the design models that have been posted. We also have a lot of information around the models, and we basically build things around people. We have almost on a weekly basis some prototype work here and in our office where visitors just come, people from the community, friends, they play with us, they give us feedback in the physical paper. Very soon I'm gonna have more feedback on the digital version as well. And we just iterate from this feedback and we take notes, we take again our post-its and Sharpies, we collect feedback from these elements. And the chatbot has been quite more difficult to iterate because it still gives very long answers. Also, if you have a recommendation on how to address this problem, we would be more than happy to hear, because when we give this context to the LLM model, we still have a lot of, it's a very long text, and we still, we need shorter answers and more concise. And we fed it with the rules of the game, but even though the steps that have to be taken on, they still are not that long, they're not that insightful, not exactly as you would have, for example, in a peer next to you helping you saying, hey, this is how you play it, and really ensuring that the rules are being followed. And this is something that we want to tackle over the following days. And also I brought some food for the live. We usually have lives, we do this outside of our regular jobs, and some energy is very, very important for keeping up the good mood. So today I had this type of money line. Actually somehow a French stuff. No. Madeleine from France, and also makes a very good match with coffee. Actually gonna test with coffee later on. But seems a good match. Also proven. Also, I think it was this week or maybe the previous week on Monday that I also tried this other agent suite. I think this other one came from China. Still, of course, needs to be implemented, these daily activities, because it really brings a good level of energy into the whole operation. And today we had fruits. So actually we have a very good fruit market nearby our office, and this is a very good advantage on living in Dresden, is that we don't have like such a big city. So, but it's still a very developed one. So we really like being here. And things that we observed is that when you're near the central train station, you're close to so many things. And there is also some Asian markets there where we have like very good fruits that are fresh and completely affordable for the quality. It's an amazing deal, and we also recommend to all of our friends, because you need some sugar, some good sugar to keep your operations, and that's one of the best places to go in our point of view for having a good amount of energy and just pushing our work forward, drinking water and eating good food. Mhm. And also today very interesting. So we have now, or I have now my other co-founders that are here with me. They work on the following room, and because we had this huge shift on the pipeline, they are now, as you can imagine, with post-its and sharpies, and they really break down the structure of what needs to be tackled on the work and what are the important elements that we have to achieve before our alpha launch on 3rd of September. So all of you are well known, and I always highlight this on every live that for our upcoming launch, we're gonna have this alpha launch, which is going to happen 3rd of September. I believe it's going to be at 7 p.m. The time still hasn't been fixed, but I think 7 p.m. Actually, 7 p.m. yes, because the same time for the live. So we're gonna have this 1 hour launch where we're gonna show the character itself, but the earlier versions are already going to be visible for all of you who are here in the channel and also in our other social media channels as well. So we're gonna have like this multiple channel launch, and this is going to be very interesting for us because it's really like before having this Investors Day on 18th of September, we will always have to prototype things first. And this is very, very, very important because on your launch day, or maybe for most of you, maybe in a demo day case, things sometimes break, they don't work, they crash, they get like an all black image, and then you cannot see anything, and this type of things happens all the time. So we want to address this type of issues early on, and the best way to do this is by a term that we use as called dry run, but not we haven't created. It's quite a well-known term in this whole startup environment, where a dry run is basically you simulate your pitch in front of an audience, and you test everything. You test audio, you test video, you test light, you test the deck, you test the internet connection, and usually you do this in the place that you're gonna have to do the launch. And in our case, is here in our office. So we also have this type of work, and we are very proud to say that even though we got stressed, things didn't work yet, we still are committed to always do this before launches. And sometimes, for example, when we had our soft launch, I think it was 3 weeks ago, we knew that some things might not work, and actually it didn't work yet. But this didn't exactly upset me because it was also a test. So we basically went live. It was just a test to see how things would work out. But now for our alpha launch, we aim to have a professional level, a professional quality level on light, sound, brightness, the AI avatar, and all of these elements that come together. And this we expect again a very professional level of quality. And also the reason for the delay today. So basically we had many visitors in our previous live, which was very interesting for us. I'm very thankful for all of your visits. And something that I observed was that maybe we could improve the video quality. So I increased the FPS to 60, and actually the latency, I think it was in a normal case, and there is low and ultra low, and I put in the ultra low. And I assumed that this type of, maybe it was the 60 or one of these two elements. I also changed many other parameters. I noticed that the live was really crashing, and I was like, okay, this I need to change, and very likely that's why you all have seen these problems in the live. So also this version is going to be a little bit shorter, but we try. And again, when we talk about prototype, we prototype so many things, and this is one of the reasons that we do prototypes, because prototypes, they don't have, we hated this concept saying, hey, you know, we had an idea, we worked the whole evening, and we come up with a ready product. Good products are not built overnight. They are all built around customers and with a lot of prototypes, a lot of testing, because there is no one fit for all solution, but actually tailored solutions for groups of people. And we always try to get the best solutions for or groups of customers or groups of users. And the best way to do this is talk to these groups and prototype as much as you can. So you can never spend that much time with our customers, and you can never build that many too much prototypes. Always build more than and bring to people and test it. And I don't actually, I should also bring one of the cards here. I think I might have one that was written in a different language, as I remember, that I even carry on my wallet. And of course, a very good recommendation about prototyping is always carry your prototype with you. Always carry them with you. So this is an example of one card. This is a design prototype. Let me finish this one. And it was basically my wallet. So always work with your prototype. And this, it was in the simplified Chinese version. And basically what we did, okay, you have this character, I think this was the forest witch, and we have the effect, so it's going to be display the text, and this is just A4 paper that we printed 2 pages and then we cut it, and on the back you have the QR code that allows you to interact with the card. And this basically, when it comes to the newest design prototype, is going to be the contract, because that's how you invoke the cards. And when you, for example, when I tell all of you, hey, we're building a trade card game, for some of you might already come the contacts, but when I just show this, and then people can touch it and feel it, they usually understand, so this is what you're building. So it's a card, I see, and there's a QR code. What does the QR code do? I can talk with the card, and then the person scans it, and the interaction starts. And that's interesting, because then person can really say if it was easy or hard. A great example was one of the, I created one, I create basically in a website, in a formula for collecting, before people having this interaction. And on a first glance, it was everything running perfect and smooth, ready for the people. And when we had a group of people here in the office, and I was just passing for each one and collecting the email, so they'll have like this online exchange for the prototyping testing and the demo. Something that I didn't observe it was that in order, after putting the email and etc. and validating, it required a CAPTCHA. And many people hated to do the CAPTCHA, because the CAPTCHA was also quite a difficult one. And they were standing up, they were not exactly in a hurry, but they also were not like wasting time. And when you see the first person doing, somehow it gives like this uncomfortable feeling. When you just see person after person after person, they scanning, You're like, so they get the concept. Some are excited, some are just like interested, and they pick up their phone. And then already some notification pops up, but then they just swipe to the side, and they're like, okay, let's scan it. Then they check the internet connection to just evaluate, and then comes the captcha. And when comes the captcha, this is such a ice cold bath, because it really removes the excitement around. It's like, I have to do this captcha, and it was two-factor captcha. So you did once, then you have to do the second one, and if you did a mistake in the cross-outs and etc., you have to redo it. It is so frustrating, and we really fight with all the weapons that we have to avoid creating a frustration experience. Products that create frustration are not successful, they are boring, they shouldn't exist. Solutions should be created to remove friction. And I was very upset with myself because I didn't test this feature before. I was building when they are already here. And this is something that I really took as a lessons learned option, because this is something that needs to be addressed for the following moments. So again, always work with your prototype. And you have a software. Actually, you can do the same thing. You can do the same way, because you do the mockup. In our case, we also have the digital prototypes for the digital version of the game. And we have the localhost 3000. We just prototype it here. We put people seated here and like, hey, here, please play. And you can see what people say. It's interesting, it's dumb, I don't get it, or it seems cool. And most of the time we also get we need somehow this AI integrated, because first it's not giving me the right direction, and second one, it's too much separated, and I want something that it's very like in this direction. It's very centralized. And this was the forest suite, so it was our first prototype. And it was actually more pink. But what we did have was, for the first deck, we had the forest deck, what she was part of. But now we already have the upcoming fire deck and the abyss deck. And somehow it's on the pipeline, which you probably have seen some spoiler in our digital community, is the ocean deck. And we are very, very proud to show this, because this has been taking a significant amount of energy and resources from our side. And of course, we are very happy to see the feedback, and we are always happy to iterate from this point on. So we are talking about new designs, new mechanics, and specifically new effects that this whole universe brings together. And we are very proud to say, okay, we have been building this, and it's getting playable. Not only in the physical version, so paper version, but also in the digital version as well. And this we're very, very proud on advocating. And again, this iteration feedback loop, it just remains. And what some people think that might be too much an overburden in a first glance, actually it is the shortcut for startups, because this iteration loop, you just, after you have done through all the problem section and now through all the solution section, you will really iterate based on customer feedback. And of course we get mixed feedback. Sometimes it's a very positive, and sometimes really highlighting the areas of improvement. But the best part is that when we bring this to the real world, people, for example, for the physical cards, they can really feel it, they can read, and they easily say, I like this, I like that, I don't like this. When you invite them for playing, always comes to the point like, okay, do I really need this tabletop or not? And after a very short introduction, they just say, okay, let's play this. And when the play starts, then and only then a brief explanation of the rules comes in, because as less explanation we have, as less boring is the whole experience. So it somehow, we always try to diminish this downgrading effect of whenever you bring rules up front, you have somehow a reduction in the interest of the listener. And here, and this was done by A4 Paper, it's something that anyone can build. And we are very proud to say that in a short amount of time, we have been able to develop 3 decks and that we have been able to play them with our whole community. And this is something that we are very, very proud of into this delivery. And besides Forest Witch, so we have again the Forest deck that's coming also with some set of rules and mechanics. We have the Fire deck, and we also have the Abyss deck, and in our current development, which will also some spoilers, the Ocean deck. And of course comes a little bit this mechanics about strengthening the cards, and also the very good part about paper, I think as I already mentioned this in following days ago, let me just take the pen, is that instead of the digital version that, for example, you really need to, okay, we had this, let's propose a different mechanic, and then we have to code this. And after coding, you have to prototype it and iterate and just check the bug, the code and debug it. So this usually take at least 1 day of work. When we're talking about a paper, instead of talking hours, we are talking about seconds. Because you easily take a pen, you make a mark on it, and say, okay, now this is this new effect, or this is the new mechanic, and then just come on this one agreement on how the game is going to be played. And this is vital for enhancing the exchange, and besides enhancing the exchange, really make this the game fun. Because remember, as you were a kid, whenever a game was unbalanced, you all came up to a mutual agreement, and then you followed from this point on. And that's exactly what we try to do on this iteration loop. Do things as quick as possible, always focusing on what makes more sense for the moment, and enjoy the ride. That's what we always focus on. Also for the next day, so tomorrow there is no live because it's a Wednesday. At Wednesday we don't host lives, but I believe that we're gonna keep the schedule of Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And also very excited to see again. I also saw new viewers, and this makes me happy because it really shows that we're going somehow in the right direction of showing the project. Very likely also going to show the AI agent on the upcoming days, as well as basically our whole startup daily work, how we're preparing, for example, for this Investors Day, regarding pitch, regarding prototyping, and we're always more than happy to show our game. We're gonna have this, very likely this integration with the model for these early adopters, and I'm also very happy to share with all of you. So very happy to see all of you here today. Wish you all a pleasant evening, and wish you, of course, very good days before Thursday. So see you there. Bye bye.